if any, if any today. All right, we will attention prayer. And we pray. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I seek refuge in thee from anxiety and grief. I seek thy refuge from lack of strength and laziness. I seek thy refuge from cowardice and niggardliness. And I seek thy refuge from being overpowered by debt and the oppression of men. Suffice thou me with that which is lawful, turn away from me that which is prohibited by thee, and by thy grace make me free of want of what is besides thee. Amen. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, and in the name of his servants, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, I'd like to say, Assalamu alaikum and Ramadan Mubarak.
Wa alaikum salam, sir. Ramadan Kareem.
Okay. We're on part 28. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. Part 28. Sister Haviva, if you would read for us ayat 5.
Yes, sir. I'm headed to that direction. I thought it was 29. I don't know. I thought we did 28 yesterday.
No problem.
Okay.
It actually, it would be 29 for, would it be 29 for us, Belinda?
I thought so. Because I have written in my book April 29. Okay, yeah, it's 28.
Yeah, 28 for in terms of the schedule that we are on.
Okay, yes, sir.
Right. Right.
So,
But we actually started fasting on 28, on the I guess the second, when the minister did his talk to us on the third, but we actually started on the second because we had gotten notification that everybody else was going to start on the second, but it turned out being the third. Of course, when the minister came on and when the minister said that's the first day, well, then that's officially the first day as far as I'm concerned, even though like I said, we started a little bit early. So go ahead on, sis.
What ayah was that, beloved, sir?
That was 5.
Okay, yes, sir. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, Surah 58, Al-Mujadilah, the Pleading Woman, Ayat 5, I seek refuge in Allah. Surely those who oppose Allah and His Messenger will be humbled, as those before them were humbled. And indeed, we have revealed clear messages, and for the disbelievers is an abasing chastisement.
Okay. I just saw this is important because it's really a dire prediction of the future. If you oppose Allah and the messenger, that's not, Allah is eternal. And the opposition is not. Those who oppose him are not eternal. As a matter of fact, the fact that they are opposing Allah and the messenger is part of the limitation of their existence. Allah even gave the devil a certain time to rule. So after that, he's not going to rule. He may be still present on some level, but he is not to rule. And his rulership among us is to expose us. Part of the reason for his rule is to expose us to what Allah does not want, to expose us to what Allah is opposed to. And if you want to go in the direction of Allah, this is certainly the direction that you do not want to go in. And we can bear witness today as we look at the TV and read the newspapers and read, various social media and print media and so forth and so on. We'll see that lying is the order of the day. That's all you see. I mean, and it seems like in a civilized society, if you call yourself civilized, it should be against the law to tell some of these bold-faced lies that we hear and that we see. And I remember when my son asked me a while back, what did I think of about Ukraine and Russia and all of this kind of stuff? I said, well, only thing I can really say is for sure is that you got one liar telling a lie to another liar. And so what do you get if it's not confusion? So those who oppose Allah and the messenger will be humble because they don't want to acknowledge the unseen, the spiritual or the infrastructure of truth. That's what he's telling us when he said that Allah created the heavens and the earth with truth. That means that there is truth. The truth is in the infrastructure. The truth is part of the unseen reality of Allah. And that eventually we all are going to have to embrace or have to confront the truth at some point. As the scripture says, ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Some places it said it will set you free. But that's a whole nother subject when we're going to try to get through these ayats as quickly as we can today. As those before them who were humble. That means when you get humble, that means you get to be made more aware of your shortcomings. And it says that we have revealed clear messages. Another reoccurring theme, clear messages. And so when we have clear messages, in the book of James in the New Testament, it says, and I'm paraphrasing, if you have a problem, pray for the answer. He said, but when the answer comes, take heed to the answer. He said, because what comes after truth but confusion? Okay? And for the disbelievers is an abasing chastisement. And so one thing that you can notice about this is that the disbelievers, those who don't see, the chastisement. See, when you go through a chastisement, well, the chastisement is sort of like a trial. Chastisement is a severe trial. And when you get chastised, then like we were talking about a trial, then your mind becomes a sponge. And then when your mind becomes a sponge, it might soak up something that it did not soak up before you went under the chastisement. And so even the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that hell, if you get cast into hell, if we get cast into hell, well, he said, well, hell is meant for purification. Allah just ain't wasting us. He's not wasting our lives. So if we go astray, sometimes he has to chastise us to put us back on the right track. For as the Bible says, the Lord loves those who he chastens much. All right. Ayat number 7, please.
Ayat number 7. Seest thou not that Allah knows whatever is in the heavens and whatever is in the earth? There is no secret counsel between three, but he is the fourth of them, nor between 5, but he is the sixth of them, nor between less than that, nor more, but he is with them whosoever they are. Then he will inform them of what they did on the day of resurrection. Surely Allah is knower of all things.
All right. And basically, this is saying to us that we should always consider Allah to be part of the equation. We should always factor Allah into our thinking and even into our perception of what's going on. Ayat 9.
Ayat 9. O you who believe, when you confer together in private, give not to each other counsel of sin and revolt in disobedience to the messenger, but give to each other counsel of goodness and observance of duty, and keep your duty to Allah, to whom you will be gathered together.
Okay. It says, and then actually, right, I won't ask you to read this, but it goes right ahead. Right after that, it says that secret counsels are only of the devil, that he may cause to grieve those who believe, and he can hurt them not except with Allah's permission. And on Allah let the believers rely. So it says when we get together, if we counsel in private, let's don't counsel in the spirit of revolt or sin or disobedience to the message. He's basically saying whenever we take counsel with one another, when we start talking to people in private, we should always try to keep our conversations on the highest level possible. It makes me think about what we say, the rules of courtship. When you are courting somebody, you always keep the conversation on the highest level possible. And so it says, give to each other counsel of goodness and observance of duty. And when we keep the counsel or the exchange on a higher level, then Allah is with us. We're going to keep on moving here. Anybody got anything they want to say, they want to jump in, just feel free to. All right, Sister Haviva, Ayat 12 and 13.
Yes, sir. Ayat 12. O you who believe, when you consult the messenger, offer something in charity before your consultation that is better for you and purer. But if you have not the means, then surely Allah is forgiving, merciful. Do you fear that you will not be able to give in charity before your consultation? So when you do it not, and Allah has turned to you mercifully, keep up prayer and pay the poor rate and obey Allah and His Messenger. And Allah is aware of what you do.
Okay, so 12, he's basically, going into what we have discussed as the law of exchange. If you consult the messenger, you consult the minister. And I actually have some Scientologists that I talk to and that I consult from time to time. And whenever I do, I try to make it my business to put a little something in their PayPal or a little something in their Cash App, because that's just, it keeps the flow undisturbed. It keeps the flow going in a consistent way. And it said that is better for you and purer. It said, but if you don't have the means, don't worry. That don't mean you don't need and should not seek the consultation. If you don't have it, you just don't have it. But seek it, and then ask Allah, to bless you and to and it says that to keep up prayer and pay the poor rate and obey Allah and His message. All right. So in the next ayat is basically saying, if you can't, you just can't, But the thing is, we should always have the mind of exchange. We should always be in the state where we are able to give, to give of what Allah has given us, to exchange. If we're receiving something, that we should always have the spirit to give, because this is actually an exercise it's really an exercise of the will, but we call it sometimes our spiritual muscle. Okay. 19.
Ayat
Go 18 and 19. I'm sorry.
Ayat 18.
I'm sorry. My bad. Sometimes I don't highlight all of the ayats that will give you the proper context of what we're trying to say. Because it's talking about go from 14 to 19.
Yes, sir.
That will give you the
14.
proper context. Yes, ma'am.
Has thou not seen those who take for friends a people with whom Allah is wroth? They are neither of you nor of them, and they swear falsely while they know. Allah has prepared for them a severe chastisement. Evil indeed is that which they do. They take shelter under their oaths, so they turn men from Allah's way. For them is an abasing chastisement. Of no avail against Allah will be to them their wealth or their children. They are the companions of the fire. Therein they will abide. On the day when Allah will raise them all up, they will swear to Him as they swear to you, and they think that they have some excuse. Now surely they are the liars. The devil has gained the mastery over them, so he has made them forget the remembrance of Allah. They are the devil's party. Now surely the devil's party are the losers.
Thank you. So what we got here is that we have to be careful that not to take for friends people who we know that are not good in good standing with Allah. Well, we say sometime in good standing in the mosque, Because, we do have injustices, but the law still is the law. And so he's saying, it talks about that if Allah has kind of, I'm not going to say Allah turned his back on this particular person, these particular people, but if these people are in variance with Allah, we must know that when we understand Allah, and when we understand relationships, and this is one of the most valuable pieces of wisdom, in my opinion, that we have in Scientology, is the concept of affinity, reality, and communication. That these are the factors that determine and describe the relationship that we have with anybody and basically anything. So if you have a people, what did it say about them up here? It says that if Allah is wrath, can somebody look that word up right quick?
We had looked it up to mean anger.
Right. His wrath and wrath, if Allah is angry, and then why would you want to take them up to be friends? See, and Allah, why is he angry? Obviously, in the 19th ayat, he says that the devil has gained mastery over them. In other words, sometimes when you start talking about the devil and you start talking about the mind, the devil really exists in the mind, and not the devil within. When you say, I seek refuge in the accursed Satan, you're seeking refuge from that devil that exists in your mind. Of course, we know that the devil exists outside of the mind too, and that he is personified, by people, most notably many of the Caucasian race. And then I'll say this too. I remember in the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's recording, The Time of the Judgment Is Now, he points out, he said that when I say the white man is the devil, he said, I don't necessarily mean that they are all 100% the devil, but they represent the personification of the devil. So here we go again with this personification, personification. You follow what I'm saying? He is the man is the personification of the devil, almost like the Master Farad Muhammad is the personification of God. That's really what we're saying, that he is the personification. He is the person. He is the composite of God. So when we draw close to those who Allah is angry with, where we know that Allah, since he's constantly telling you about clear arguments, that this thing with him about clear arguments, it must mean something. There must be some kind of value in clear argument. There's some kind of value in reason. So if he is wrath with them, that he has a reason to be so. And if you and I are striving to be one with Allah, then there are certain there is an anatomy of a correct relationship with Allah. Number one, affinity, communication, and reality. So the reality means agreement, that if you agree with Allah, and then Allah is, is angry, then what should your attitude be? Should you take them for a friend? Very simple stuff. We're going to keep on going. Let's have 22, Sister Haviva.
Ayah 22. Thou wilt not find a people who believe in Allah and the latter day, loving those who oppose Allah and His Messenger, even though they be their fathers or their sons or their brothers or their kinfolk. These are they into whose heart He has impressed faith and strengthened them with a spirit from Himself. And He will cause them to enter gardens wherein flow rivers, abiding therein. Allah is well pleased with them, and they are well pleased with Him. These are Allah's party. Now surely it is Allah's party who are the successful.
All praises be to Allah. And then when we say successful, it just kind of hit me right then. Successful is those who make a postulate stick, that make a postulate come true. All right. And then it goes, and ayat 22 goes back to what we were just saying about the previous ayat that we flagged. They said, "Thou will not find the people who believe in Allah in the latter day, loving those who oppose Allah and His message." See, even though they be their fathers or their sons or their brothers or their kinsfolk. And that just made me think. I had a situation one time where somebody, one of my kin folks, and who I love, they just wanted to refer to me by my name, by my slave name. I'm like, damn, it's been 20 years or more since I had it changed legal, so-called legal in the courts. And I was going by my name, Batin, years even before that, but yet you want to still call me. And I've told you one time, I said, well, my slave name was Stan Jackson. I said, Stan Jackson is dead. Please don't resurrect it. I put him away for a reason. But see, what it is that they still want to say that. They want to bring that stuff up because they oppose you. They really opposing what Islam, I guess, represents to them. And so I just had to kind of let them know, say, well, in so many words, this is what you need to refer to me as, if you still want my friendship. Because see, if not, then if you don't respect my religion, you don't respect my God, then I really don't love you no more. we got an ARC break. We got, you know what I mean? We got that's what the Church of Scientology calls it. They call it an ARC break. ARC equals, well, I'm not gonna say it equals, but ARC is love. ARC is understanding. ARC is the principle, I put it like that, is the principal components of love, the principal components of understanding, the principal components of freedom. See? Even though that would be your kinfolk. And so, Allah He came to create a whole nother family. And I guess at some point in time, we're going to understand more of the significance of the bloodlines and the ties of friendship or the unity that we come into in the ummah of the brotherhood and sisterhood of Islam. All right, move on to the next surah. And we're gonna go. And if anybody got anything in between that, please let us know. All right. Gonna go to ayat 9.
Ayat 9. And those who made their abode in the city and in faith before them love those who have fled to them and find in their hearts no need of what they are given and prefer them before themselves, though poverty may afflict them. And whoever is saved from the niggardliness of his soul, these it is that are the successful.
And I think this is one of the reasons too that Mr. Hubbard brought out that whole thing of exchange. And it makes me think about what the minister says. The minister said about the tech and ethics. See, niggardliness seems to be the counter reality of ethics or of high ethics. You know, we say in the prayer, guide me to the best of morals. For none can guide me to the best of morals but thee. Well, then the best of morals are really called ethics. You know, ethics is the highest standard that you would put on yourself. And it talks about right here, you got people that ain't got nothing, but still willing to give whatever they have, you know. And it says, whoever is saved from the niggardliness of his soul. Just think about it. So he's telling us a lot of different things. Number one, he's telling us that whoever is saved from the niggardliness, he's telling you that we have niggardliness. And it's not nothing for us to get excited about that we might have a little niggardliness, because, you know, maybe some of us really think that we are holy, and we do have a certain degree of holiness, but we've been affected by our enemies. And our enemies, the effect of our enemy make us want to hold on to everything that we have, because everything that we possess, we feel like this is something that will keep us to survive, that will help us to survive. I'm sorry. And so we tend to want to hold on to these things, and to the point where we want to hold on to it to the expense of whoever and whatever. And I would say that niggardliness could be the seed or even a lower gradient of greed. You just want everything for yourself. And this is one of the things that makes the pig unclean, is that he wants everything. He's greedy. He won't, he eat everything. He'll eat so much until he make himself sick. And so you got niggardliness is an aberration on the first dynamic. Niggardliness can be considered to be an imbalance or even a mismanagement of the first dynamic, which is to survive as an individual. Because some of us, we survive as an individual. We get to the point where we can survive as an individual, but we want to just put a little something else in the layaway for ourselves. Which the Holy Quran teaches us now. It says that you should save a little something for a rainy day. But there is a certain point, and we can all appreciate that point because it is in our nature to survive, but then it is also in our nature to survive as an individual, but it's also in our nature to survive as a family and as a group. So when that urge, that inclination to survive as an individual, when it prohibits you from letting the urge to survive, say, as a family next, where you hold back even from your family because you want to make sure you square, then you have an aberration on the first dynamic. Because if the family needs something, then you got it, but you hoarding it. You find yourself at variance, really, with yourself. So it says, whoever is saved from the niggardliness of his soul, that means the imbalance of wanting to save yourself. But you have to manage that so that it will not interfere with your urge to survive as a family. You can't let that cut off efforts to survive as a family. And you can't let your urge to survive as a family cut you off from your urge or your need. So you got a need, you got a need. And a lot of times, you have your wants and your needs are together. See, your wants and your needs, all of these are reflective of your nature. If you just want something, if you want this and you want that, well, you want certain things and then you need certain things. But if you want something and if you need something, all of these are pointing toward your nature and how well you are able to manage your nature or your urges on certain levels. Because sometimes you have a need. So if I have a need for transportation, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he told us, he said, stop buying fine cars before you live in a decent house. Because if you got a $50,000 car and you living in a $20,000 house, then you are mismanaging. You know, you need the car, but you need a house. And so there's some mismanagement and some aberration, which the mismanagement is a manifestation of. Am I making sense? Okay. All right.
Yes,
So
sir.
it's so we're saying that whoever we've even in our soul, and I guess we can say if it's in your soul, but it is not of your soul. Ah, that's a good way to put it. Niggardliness is in your soul, but it is not of your soul. But since it's in your soul, it is having an effect on the soul. And who is saved from the niggardliness of the soul? I guess, and what he's saying there, I guess that does kind of contradict to a degree what I was just saying, but I think the principle is there, is that you have niggardliness is not of the soul. Niggardliness, in our case, it is something that is in the soul. It is something that has been added to us in our experience with the devil, or even either with the devil or our mismanagement of our needs and our wants. So when you got wants and needs, you've got reflections and manifestations of your nature. With your nature in which you are, is the natural tendencies. And this is one of the things that we, I guess we kind of swing back and forth with as we study this thing about nature. And nature, we said, this is from about 4 years ago, and I missed my brother Rafiq. I got to call him and see what's going on with him. But he used to always bring this up, this definition, is that nature is what you are trying to do without trying to do it. And then so if you need something to survive, then there is a natural want to fulfill that particular thing. But when the want becomes corrupt, then it can become greed. So niggardliness is sort of like a lower gradient and may even be considered to be a seed of greed. Not as clear as I would like, but I hope you understood what we were saying. All right. Ayat number 14, Sister Habiba.
Ayat 14. They will not fight against you in a body save in fortified towns or from behind walls. Their fighting between them is severe. Thou wouldst think them united, but their hearts are divided. That is because they are a people who have no sense.
Okay. So sometimes when people, oppose you, especially if they oppose, if you're trying to do the right thing, and then you've got people or a group of people that oppose you. It says that they look to be united. But if they are opposing something that is righteous, they generally in their heart of hearts, there is no unity in their hearts. Different. They oppose righteousness for different reasons. And so there is no unity with the reasons. One, they probably represent several different tone scale positions below 2.0. And so some oppose you because they fear you. Some oppose you because they're angry with you. Some oppose you because they just hate you. Some oppose you maybe because of some anxiety or some grief. So it said, but they all opposing you. And it said that you would think them to be united, but their hearts are divided. So heart is the seed of the emotion. So in other words, it's saying that they don't really have the unity. Just like say with a believer, we are trying to unite with Allah. And I have seen this play out myself when I was trying to do certain things. And the wicked, they have the spirit of mischief, and they oftentimes are rebels without a cause. Okay. So he said that is because they are people who have no sense. And I guess when you get down below 2.0, you don't have a real sense of what's going on, it's just misemotion. You just opposing it. Just like I had one guy one time, I was on a call and the guy said, I disagree. I said, well, why do you disagree? I don't know. I just disagree. You have no sense. Okay. 16.
Ayat 16. Like the devil when he says to man, disbelieve. But when he disbelieves, he says, I am free of thee. Surely I feel Allah, the Lord of the worlds.
Okay. And what I got there is that even the devil fears Allah. The devil has a certain reign, but at the end of the day, just like the lion is the king of the jungle, when the lion roars, it ain't, even the elephant is bigger or whatever, they all respond to the roar of the lion. 22 through 24.
Ayah 22. He is Allah, besides whom there is no God, the knower of the unseen and the seen. He is the beneficent, the merciful. He is Allah, besides whom there is no God, the King, the Holy, the Author of peace, the Granter of security, guardian over all, the Mighty, the supreme, the possessor of greatness. Glory be to Allah from that which they set up with him. He is Allah, the creator, the maker, the fashioner. His are the most beautiful names. Whatever is in the heavens and the earth declares his glory, and he is the mighty, the wise.
He is Allah, besides whom there is no God. And so what I'm seeing here is that the Quran, and well, I say the Quran, as actually these are the words of God. And I know some people say, as the scripture says, that in them you think you have eternal life. Well, say he's saying, you know, we're dealing with gradients here. You know, this book is Allah, but it is not the gradient of Allah that deserves to be worshipped. See, he's the knower of the sin. He's the giver of the book. See, so we don't worship what he gave. We worship the one who gives the book. We don't even worship the unseen. We worship the creator of the unseen. We worship the architect of the unseen. And so this is where we get into our critical thinking, where we have to learn how to delineate and learn the fact that we have a tendency to mock up oftentimes because of insecurity or because of what we don't know. The minister said it, the messenger said it, L. Ron Hubbard said, well, L. Ron Hubbard, we'll start with him. He said that the biggest barrier to knowing something is the thing that you already know. The minister said that with Black people, he said that we don't know. And we don't know that we don't know, and we don't want nobody to tell us anything. That's that ego. And by Allah, we got a course coming up on the ego now. It may be some prerequisites. And see, the problem is that, you know, your problem is you. The problem is that you are a God. That's part of your problem. Because you know that you God somewhere in your heart of heart and your mind of minds. But coming up out of this death trap, this ignorance, we have a tendency, we'll study something and we learn just enough about something to think that we know. We learn just enough about something to think that we know about this particular thing, but we don't learn enough about the thing to realize that we really don't know. Because we get so excited with knowledge, and the knowledge puffs us up. And it actually throws you almost into another layer of chaos. You know how some of us are, we come into the Nation of Islam. You read the message to the Black man, a couple of chapters and a couple of verses, a couple of surahs of the Quran, and then you think you got it. When the minister told us to go to Scientology and Dianetics. They said, man, we don't, I got all I need with the Quran and the messenger's teaching. How in the hell do you know that? When the man sent by the author of these books told you to go somewhere else. But no, you know enough to think that you know, but you don't know enough to realize that you don't know. And that's why, you know, the minister said, you know, he talks about how we got to really get on this humility thing, because it's so easy, especially when you start branching out on this limb that we're on. It's a wonderful limb, but ooh, it's a dangerous limb. Because like I was saying, I think it was yesterday, when you fall off of a 2-story building, it's a whole lot different than falling off of a 10-story building. So we have to root ourselves in the fundamentals, and that is Allah is God. There is no God but Master Farah Muhammad. He knows the seen and the unseen. He created it. He is the one that we get benefit from. He is the one that we get mercy from. He's the King, the holy. And so the soul itself, the static, is holy. But over these trillions of years, and most notably the last 467 or so years, we have picked up certain things. Mr. Hubbard called them the theta facsimiles. The cumulative mind of yourself, the person of Brother Wadu, the person of Sister Durana, the person of Sister Jacqueline, Sister Carolyn, Sister Carol, Sister Haviva, Sister Sarah, Sister Belinda, Brother Bateen. Allah is trying to make us aware of the real self and help us to delineate between the real self and that which have been implanted in us. And there will come a certain time when we will be able to separate. And I believe that we will get to a certain point where we can really say, "Get thee behind me, Satan." Because you got your true self, and then you've got this reactive mind. And when the more we learn about Allah, the more we get in tune with the true self. If we study the 99 attributes of Allah, we are studying our true self. And when the true self within us becomes activated or reactivated, then it counters all that is a part of us, including the niggardliness, among other things, that exists in the facsimile, in the theta of the mind that is connected with the soul. See, he is the holy. So we're looking for that part of him. He is the author of peace. He is the grantor of security. And that's one reason why we are taught or urged to cast off everything that is not of Allah. So the more that we learn about Allah and his characteristics and his properties, the more able for us that we are to identify, even in ourselves, that which is not of him, and we can cast it off, throw it off, press it away from us. We can put the pressor beam on it, Sister Carol Asada, as opposed to the tractor beam. We're talking Star Trek stuff in there. But that pressor beam takes it out, and when you study, like I said, Mr. Hubbard, he makes it plain about the pressor beam and the tractor beam. But to try to get the big picture, and it's a big picture. They say it's so high you can't get over him, so low you can't get under him, so wide you can't get around him. The big picture of Allah, to whom all praises are due forever. And see, sometimes maybe in the back of some of our minds, maybe to a degree in all of our minds, to a degree, due to the circumstances and the time that we live in, we might have some kind of problem bowing all the way down to Allah, because ain't that what the problem with Iblis was? He didn't want to bow. Allah said, bow. Man, I can't do that, man. I'm made of fire and he made of dust. So we have to identify the things within ourselves that are at variance with our God. And we're gonna wind this up a little early today, but I did want to say that that's part of what we're given in the prayer, that the prayer of refuge, that we want to get away from the things of this world. We want to get away from certain things that have been implanted in our mind. And so you got the technical dictionary. Look up that word implant. Anxiety. I seek refuge in Allah. So that means I want to go to Allah. I want to I guess refuge. Somebody give me a definition of refuge. Right quick. always thought of refuge as being like I'm in a, just like a bear in the winter. You got all of the snow, all of the snow outside and the winter weather and everything. Then the bear is in the cave. He's protected. He's protected from the elements. So the cave is his refuge.
I have shelter or protection from danger, difficulty, etc. Protection
Okay.
from hardship.
Right. So he put that in the chat too, if you can, please. So we are seeking refuge in Allah from anxiety. Anxiety will kill you. But if you exteriorize, and that's what we were talking about, that if you can exteriorize, because see what happens is that when you get anxious, if you might have noticed, your mind can get buried in anxiety to the point where you can have what they call in this world an anxiety attack, where you want to get out of this. You can, you're buried, you're surrounded, seems like, in every direction with anxiety. Wherever you look over here, you're feeling anxious. You look over here, you look back there, you look down, up, all around, and it's anxiety. So you are inside, you have been enveloped by anxiety. So you say, I want to seek refuge. So this, you can just imagine anxiety being like a sphere, and then you are trapped in this sphere of anxiety. So what you want to do is you are trying to exteriorize. So you take this sphere, and then you are in this sphere, and then you pull yourself out of this sphere. Where do you go? You go to Allah, and Allah protects you. Not only does he protect you, he gives you freedom. I seek refuge in Allah. I seek this proximity. I seek this affinity, this reality, and this communication with Allah, to where my attention is no longer in this sphere. And then my attention now is on the Lord of the worlds. It is on the knower of the unseen. I'm putting my attention on the beneficent, the merciful. I'm redirecting my attention, or which causes me or helps me to exteriorize, to come out of this sphere of anxiety. Is that making sense? I seek refuge in thee from anxiety and grief. See, grief, that's what you when you look at it, so when you're able to look at it and kind of delineate it, and you know what I mean? Put some boundaries there. Define it. See, that's why we clear words so we can define. You know, if you shooting at something, you got to have a defined target. You don't just shoot in the dark. You define what you're trying to shoot at. Anxiety and grief. So anxiety is where you're worried about the future. Pull your mind out of that. And you seek affinity, reality, and community. So you're communicating. So you get in a panic attack, then that means that you're communicating too much with this damn anxiety. So you need to start communicating with Allah now. When you start communicating with Allah, then you are able to exteriorize or come out of that sphere of anxiety. Come out of this sphere. So your mind is plunged into grief. You lost something. So grief is one of the characteristics I can see some of the characteristics of secondaries there. Or it is just the feeling. Well, it is. It's, you know, you grieve generally because what happened? You lost something. I'm grieving because my mother, I'm grieving this and that. So this feeling, this energy that's created, this emotion, which one way that you can look at emotion, the word emotion, that it is energy in motion. And the emotion or the frequency of the frequency of the motion, the wavelength of the emotion determines what emotion is present. So you are in this emotion of grief. And so you get caught up on this frequency where your mind is stuck on this frequency. Sometimes it can be like what he calls it a demon circuit. So you become one almost. You get stuck in this emotion, anxiety, and grief. And this, you get encapsulated by grief. Every time you look, everything reminds you of the person that you lost or the thing that you have lost or whatever it is. You can't get past it. So by diligently saying your prayers, see, you get into the spiritual practice of when it's time for prayer, Well, if your mind is on something else, it may be on work or whatever it is, you get practice of exteriorizing yourself from whatever sphere of thought that you happen to be in come prayer time, and you exteriorize that from that, and then you go into prayer. And when you go into prayer, you go into communication with the master of whatever it is that you experience. Allah is the master of it. And the more you know about him, then the more reasonable. See, reasonable stuff, that stuff, man, that's just like butter on toast. Stuff that's reasonable. Clear argument. So that's why he said that people that don't listen to clear argument, they like to eat cornflakes without the milk, which I know some of us do. But I think you get the point. Go ahead, Sister Carol.
Assalamu alaikum, Ramadan Mubarak. Can you repeat what you said about the emotion wavelength?
Right. Emotion. One way that you can describe emotion is that it is energy in motion. So when you have motion, there is a cycle that is taking place. And the frequency of the cycle determines the wavelength of the cycle. If it's a slow frequency, if it's a low frequency, then the wavelength is large. And if it's a higher frequency, then the wavelength is less. Does that make sense?
No, but I'm gonna think on it.
Tell me what is it that you have a problem?
Maybe I just don't know enough about frequency and wavelengths, I guess.
Yeah,
But
because I'm sitting up
listening.
here. I got it just as clear in my mind, and I know that you can look right in my mind and see exactly what I'm thinking. I'm being facetious.
And start looking. I just don't.
We're gonna have to.
What you're saying is, if it's the longer the wavelength, the more it's persisting and causing damage to the individual.
That makes a whole lot of sense to me. Yeah, that lines up. That lines up, because see, the finest wavelengths, the finest wavelengths, and that's what the messenger was saying. He was saying even about what he was teaching. He say, don't worry about how I'm saying it. He said, worry about what I say, and then go ahead on and put it into that fine language. So the fine language is a higher frequency. And I think that just bears witness to what I have been saying. Belinda told me about this thing that they got called a whiteboard, and I could definitely. Are you familiar with a sine wave?
No, sir.
Are you familiar with trigonometry?
No, sir.
Okay.
What about the wavelength, like on the EKG and flatlining?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. That's a display. That's some mass on a wavelength.
Okay. Okay.
Right. And so when it gets
Okay.
flatline, ain't no more wavelength, and you know what
Right.
happens, the people that flatline.
Mm-hmm.
That just gives you a basic view. But I really need to, when I do this, and that's one of my fallacies, is that I try to explain things sometimes, and there's not enough mass. I don't give you enough mass, which could easily lead to a skip gradient, because the natural tendency of the mind would be to whatever you don't understand, you mock up. And then if you don't have the sufficient data to make a correct, that your mock-up is near correct, then you could become confused. And that's one reason why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, and I have to adhere and hear him twice, if not thrice, is, you have to be careful to try to teaching something that you can't teach the people how to master. And with a diagram, I probably could do a little better. Let me see. But see, we don't really have that much time. So you got, let me see.
Brother Bateen, assalamu alaikum.
Go ahead, brother.
May I offer you a little assistance?
Absolutely. Go ahead, sir.
Sister Carol, if you can imagine driving on a hill and you're going up and down hills, sort of like the foothills in Georgia or wherever you're at, if they have hills and you're just driving up and down, up and down. Can you picture that?
Mm-hmm.
That's a sine
Yes,
wave.
sir.
Up and down, up
Oh.
and down, like
Right.
hills. And then
Yes.
every time you reach the top of the hill, when you look out and see the next hill, how far
Mm-hmm.
away that next top of the next hill is, that's your wavelength.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Good. Very good.
And so the farther away the next hill is, the longer the wavelength. The closer the top
Right.
of the next hill is, the shorter the wavelength. So,
Right. I got that.
okay, so when you transition to frequency, do you think that you will get to the top of the next hill if it's farther away? Do you think you'll get to the top of the next hill faster, which is frequency? Do you think you'll get there faster if the top of the next hill is farther away or closer to you?
You'll get there faster if it's closer.
Exactly. So the shorter the wavelength, the faster the
Mhm.
frequency.
Okay,
Right.
now
So the
with that
fine, yeah.
being
The
energy,
finer, right. So the shorter the
so
wavelength will be the.
emotion.
Go ahead, sis.
Okay, so if emotion is energy in motion, the longer the wavelength of that motion, how does that affect? Is the emotion going to be something that's a destructive emotion, or if the wavelengths are shorter, is that a better emotional? I'm trying to get the connection of
Yeah.
wavelengths.
You got that's some good questions, sis. That's a good question. One way you could look at it is that if the longer the wavelength, the I guess the more intense the emotion is, the shorter the
Okay,
wavelength.
is that good or bad?
Well, it's potentially bad
Okay,
because you can get, it's easier to get stuck in that emotion. It's easy to get stuck
okay,
in it.
let me let you go on to something else, and I fall back and just think on it for a minute.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought it up because I think we need to address that. That's one of the things that we're gonna be dealing with is emotions. What is emotion?
See, emotions it's a drive. And particularly for me, I've like sort of
No, the emotion. See,
And-
and so that's where we got it again. Emotion is you equating emotion to what the emotion causes. Your emotion causes a certain kind of drive, but you can't say emotion is the drive because there's a difference.
oh,
You get what I'm saying?
yeah, okay, yes. It's a misinterpretation that I guess I've had about what emotion is. You're saying emotions are energy in motion.
It's different. Right. It's energy.
So
It's
good energy, bad energy, is it?
Well, it just
Because
depends.
you should not.
That depends. See, so what is good? What is good energy? Or what is good? When you say good, what do you mean when you say that?
Good energy is the energy that you have that makes you do good things in the world.
Okay, that's
helping others.
okay. Right, that's right. That is good. That's a great great definition. And let me just say this, that you have in the technology, you have the chain of thought, emotion, and effort. So you got an emotion. Well, then what did the emotion come from? What caused the emotion or thought? What caused the effort was the emotion. So there's like a chain there's a chain there that is that comes about, starting with the thought. You have a thought or decision, and then that thought reveals or produces an emotion, which is sort of a wave.
How does
So
that play into, sir? How does that play into overcoming emotions and rising into the thinking of God? See, that's where I am. Overcoming emotions.
And I do understand that. I understand that. Well, see, you get on a higher frequency.
Okay.
Because
with longer waves.
No, with shorter waves. But like I say, that's a whole nother subject that I promise you, inshallah, if Allah blesses me to be in a position to teach on that. But a lot of it can be found if you go to L. Ron Hubbard's lectures and book series called Thought, Emotion, and Effort. That will give you a whole lot more. Yeah, that'll give you a whole lot more insight. And that's part of the reason, as I was saying earlier, that we're gonna get more into a sort of a classroom thing instead of just purely discussion. Because if you hear something in a discussion, then you have a right to say what, you know, what your perspective is, but then your perspective may not take into account everything that was taken to an account when the statement or the idea was put out there. So, you know.
Right, because
Yeah,
you know where I am. I'm in
Yes,
that
ma'am.
overcoming emotions.
That's
into
right.
the
And
thing.
and we
You know
and
where it
and we have actually covered that in STW, you know. But like I
okay.
said, that's a whole
Okay.
different thing. And it's 6:30 now. And but
Right. I didn't want to
inshallah.
hold
Oh
up
no,
that
no,
long.
no, sister. No, you good. You are good. You are absolutely good. And you know,
Thank you then.
yes, ma'am. No problem at all. Because that's what we here. That's what we're here for. You know, I just want to exercise some level of discipline. Emotion, and let me just say this right quick, and then we can close this thing out. Emotion is the energy, we'll say, that is created by a thought. It is the energy. It is the, and that's an incomplete definition. And I was just trying to tie that into what I was just saying, the energy in motion. But the emotion is the state or the condition that is brought about by the thought. You think you have a thought, that thought creates or brings about an emotional state which reflects how you receive that thought or how you process that thought. And depending on the emotion, this emotion will determine a certain kind of effort. Okay, so I see you slap my child. That thought of you slapping my child, the thought of how my child is feeling since you slapped him, that makes me angry. That's the emotion. The emotion of anger makes me go over to you and slap you the way you slap my child. So you got the thought, which is the perception of you, of somebody hitting my child. The emotion is anger. And then the anger caused me to exert a certain effort. Does that make sense? Not everybody at once.
Yes, sir. Yes, yes. It makes sense.
Okay. All
Oh,
right.
you're addressing
So
her.
yeah, so start right there, Sister Carol. Marinate on that. And we would I would, you know, the thought, emotion, effort. That is something, but it is the thing about it is that, so you really need to have you, in order to really get what you need to get out of that, you really need to have book one. You need to have read book one. And you really need to have read Science of Survival. because those are higher gradient things, and you run into some difficulty because what we may be dealing with here is sort of like a skip gradient, and this is what I'm realizing. Even with STW, we've done a lot of good over these last 4 years, but I think what we've done too is that we've introduced a lot of skip gradient material. And when you get that skip gradient material, that stuff, it'll turn back on you. That's just what it is. And that's one of the reasons why Mr. Hubbard said, when you read in his book, if you come across a word that you don't understand, stop and look it up, because if you don't, what you're doing, you're skipping a gradient. And eventually that lack of understanding or misunderstanding can come back to haunt you. And this is, I guess, this is one of the challenges that we have to work out. I think we generally do pretty good, but every once in a while, we'll run into something, just like matter of fact, the thing about the study guide and rising above emotion into the thinking of God. And so we know, is love an emotion?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Yes,
right.
there's love and emotion.
So do you want to? So you want to write? And they say God is love, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And so we pretty much can agree on that. You know what I mean? So what I'm just saying that to bring out the fact that when he said rise above emotion, according to my understanding of emotion, he's talking about rising above the lower emotions.
Right.
Because the
Mm-hmm.
lower emotions are below 2.0, the higher emotions are above 2.0. The higher emotions are pointing us to the thinking of God. The highest of the emotions is we call the tone 40. And it is a very fine, it's a very fine frequency that you don't have a chance to even think about it. The frequency is so close, you don't even have to think about it. And actually you end up in present time because you ain't even thinking, you are just being.
You know how I think, I feel like the minister is saying when he said rise above emotion into the thinking of God, like the Holy Quran is always repeating how these people are always talking about how they found their fathers doing something.
Mm-hmm.
We have been doing this, all our lives. We have to rise above that emotion of being stuck in that frame of reference into the thinking of God. So then we have to study to see who is God and what is it that God wants from us. Because most of our lives, we're just here and we don't really have a clue as to why we're here and what are we supposed to do while we're here. So we're just on an emotional tangent. I got it, whatever crosses our path, a new car crosses our path, we got to have that, or whatever we see. Our frame of reference changes from minute to minute about our lives. And that's my interpretation of that type of emotional fix that we have, that we're stuck in. So we need to rise above that. That's like looking at a thing that looks bad, like Moses in search of knowledge. Moses got very emotional, the kind of emotion that I'm understanding with the wise man. And he says, oh my goodness, you put a hole in the boat, you know. But he had to rise above that emotion of thinking someone did something bad and look at the bigger picture.
Exactly. The bigger picture is the
So
thinking of
that's
the
pretty
bigger,
much where I am.
yeah, the bigger picture is the thinking of God. All right. Well, let's
Right.
praise be to Allah. All right. Well, we're gonna go ahead on and
Mhm.
bring it to a close now. Thank you, everybody. We will be back here tomorrow at 5 p.m. And I'm thinking that what we may do tomorrow is try to do the best we can. We'll try to spend 30 minutes on part 29 and the rest of it on part 30. And so we can finish up the last two parts, since tomorrow is technically going to be the last day of Ramadan. So I hope that's all right with everybody. That's what we'll try to do tomorrow. And thank you once again for your attention, for your presence, for your contribution. Even though you may not say nothing, we are feeling it, and that you are helping to steer the conversation. And I pray, Allah, that for all of us, the light of understanding, we are only trying to do good. And if we fall short, charge it to our reactive mind, charge it to what our enemy has put on us, while we maintain that there is no God but Allah, and that all praises are due to Allah. So with that, we will end in prayer. Attention, prayer. And we pray. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, all praises are due to Allah, the Lord of the world, the Beneficent, the Merciful, Master of this day of judgment in which we now live. To thee alone do we serve, and to thee alone do we beseech for help. O Allah, guide us on the right path, the path you have bestowed favors, not of those whom your wrath has brought down, nor those who go astray. Ameen. Okay, brothers and sisters, assalamu alaikum, Ramadan Mubarak. Inshallah, we'll see you tomorrow. Brother Wadu, you got something to say before we leave?
Just wanted to ask a question, sir, in regard to the end of Ramadan. I've never really been clear. Are we able to drink coffee or water throughout the day, because some say we have to break the fast and have Eid with everybody else, or do we wait until sundown to have coffee and tea? I just don't know.
There were so many different things, so